Hi guys, today we're going to talk about the Derwent Burnisher and blending tools. So they basically look like pencils, but they are for specific things, and I showed a little bit of this these colour swatches and these pastels in my last colour swatching video, I think 2 videos back, but I really just wanted to show you these tools because they do a lot of, they almost look like, they give you the impression of pastels without having the mess of the actual pastel. So here's the package that they come in. You can see it's the Derwent Burnisher and Blender. So you get 2 of each in here. You get a eraser and you get the pencil sharpener. So to be honest, I'm not really a fan of the pencil sharpener or the eraser, so I just prefer to get the pencils in single off Jackson's Art. You can see here, this is the one I like. And you can see there how heavy the one was versus the other, and see this is how the one in the packet sharpens. It breaks all the wood. And then here I've done it with the favourite graphite Staedtler one that I like. And so it sharpens the pencils really nicely. There's no sort of chipping of the wood or anything like that. And I just got mine at Michael's, but you can probably get them online as well. And so here we are going to jump into some examples of what they do. So I was really pleased the other night. I got these for my birthday and I was really pleased. I did some sort of swatching of them the other night. And they're really lovely. So you can see on the 2 samples on the right, the top one's done with the blender and the bottom one is done with the burnisher. So the burnishing on the bottom makes it a lot more shiny, and the blender sort of blends it really softly together and gives it almost the look of a pastel. So we're going to go through a little bit on how to use each one of these. So we'll kind of cover what the packet says to use them for, and then some ideas that I had pretty much from like watching Kirsty Partridge art, and so how I think we can use them. So I'm just pulling out a couple of pencils from my little pencil box, and you can see here this one is pretty blunt, but back at school I was the one that still had quite enough pencil in it, when you had to use your lead pencil, and then I didn't want to sharpen it, and for me that was still good to go. So I'm sort of still getting used to the fact that you have to keep the pencils sharpened. But here you can see I'm just laying down some colour in some sort of small circular motions, and we're just going to look at so this is the burnisher, and we'll do that first. And I am laying this down in a diagonal direction, so I'm not laying it down in the same direction that I put the pencil down in, and then you can also go back in the opposite direction to try and give more even coverage. And you can see here that it puts a really beautiful sheen over the pencils, but it doesn't blend at all, so it's not going to give you if I had have laid the pencil down probably when it was sharpened, it would maybe help, but I just wanted you to be able to see sort of the difference between these 2 tools. So you can see here the same swatch with the blender, and all of that pigment starts to blend together really beautifully. And so what we're going to do now is put the burnisher over the blending tool. So we've laid down the pencil and then we've blended it, and now we're going to burnish on top of that to make it look really shiny as well and still have that really nice sheen across the top of it. And I actually really love using it in that 3-step process. And so now what we're going to do, they say on the box that you can use it as a wax resist. So I've laid down sort of a medium pressure layer of the burnisher there, and then we're just going to go over the top of that, and then a really soft layer, and see how that works. So I'm going back, the wax resist on the first one I did wasn't as clean as I'd like it, so I'm going back with a really strong pressure just to show you how you can actually get a pretty clean white line here from that. So here I am putting down 3 different colours, and we're just going to try. Now obviously, like, there's different ways to blend coloured pencils, and on the page when you're doing any sort of art with them, but I'm just kind of laying the 3 colours and overlapping them a little, and just to kind of see how the blender reacts and how it works with the pencils. And I will do a couple of other swatches like this, but I think it's really interesting to see how this works, and it's I really, really love it. I can't say enough good about it. And so here you can see I'm burnishing over the top, and again I've laid the pencil down one way, then I go diagonally over it with the blender, and then I go the opposite direction diagonally over it with the burnisher or with the blender again in the other direction. And you can see from the first sample that we made, and that's still quite grainy, and how well the other two have blended together. And then here I am just showing you, I've pulled these 3 really bright colours out of my little pencil box, and it's kind of looks like a really portrait palette left in there. I really like that. I like how you can, use the different colours in your collections to create sort of different ideas. But here I'm just actually adding the blender over this little wax resist piece that we did here, so that you can just see that what that would look like. So something else that they said is that when you, on the box, when you lay down the blender, it can actually help to add more layers of pencil over the top of it. So, if you know about coloured pencils, you know that, like, at some point the pencils will become too slick and too smooth, and you won't be able to add new pencil. There's no sort of tooth for it to grab onto. And adding the blender will actually help you to be able to add more layers of pencil. So I just tried that here, and it seems to work really well. And then also, with the blender, if you're worried about smudging your work, you can use a paintbrush, just a soft paintbrush, just to get rid of the little particles of sort of pigment that, you see on the paper there. And so again, here I am just showing you a couple of different examples that I tried out the other day. I was pretty excited about, finding this and being able to do all this. So I was going to just upload this little video the other week, and then I thought I would just add a little bit more footage and a bit more information about how to actually use everything. And so one tip I have, that if you're going from a darker to a lighter colour, you can actually get rid of some of that dark pigment off on a scrap piece of paper if you don't want that pigment, because it will sort of contaminate a lighter bit of the swatch if you're worried about that. But you can see here how nicely, well, hopefully you can see how nicely the swatch, it changes. It looks like I've done a pastel, I've used pastels to do these swatches rather than coloured pencils. So I really, really love, just having this it's almost like a little secret weapon. So you can use this without, with coloured pencil without actually having to have. I mean, pastels can be A, expensive, B, they're very messy. So you've got to have your workspace set up for that, and various things. So with this, it's a lot cleaner solution, and it's just I just really love it. So, and again, I think I show you here that you can actually use, pencil over the top of the blender as well. Just if any areas of your work have become, a little bit too blended, and you want to make those, like re-articulate those and make them stand out again, you just can, really easily go back over the blender. And I think here again, just before I had done the beginning part of the footage, I'm just showing you, this is not what your pencils should look like. They should be sharpened all the time, but yeah, that's sort of what happens with my pencils. And then again, this is my favorite sharpener. I got it from Michael's. And that's pretty much all for today, guys. I will see you very soon. I hope you're having a nice day. And I'll just leave you with a little bit of footage of our little Coton de Tulier. And she is just roaming around. She does not like when I pull the camera out. So she's not one of those dogs that could be like an Insta dog. But she's just about to have a bath. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.